In today's episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Paula, a movement specialist who has dedicated her career to helping people find relief from chronic pain and improve their physical wellness through targeted body movement. But here's the twist. Paula's expertise stems from her own personal journey from recovering a severe bus accident that left her with debilitating pain. How did Paula overcome her own pain and use it to help others? Tune in to find out.
Welcome to Empowering Time Markers, the podcast where we share inspiring stories, empower listeners with business tips, and create connections. I'm your host, Tia Bottum, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this journey of growth and empowerment.
Our guest today is a movement specialist and performs with the traditional Chinese orchestra of Washington, D.C. She studies music, languages, and physical movement. One day in high school, after studying abroad in France, she realized she wanted to learn more cultures in Asia, which led her moving to Taiwan after college. Please welcome Paula James.
Thank you, Tia. Pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell me your story.
I was really active as a kid. And I'm going to go all the way back there. My parents bought this great house that the backyard opened out onto the elementary school playground. And so I have access to the big swings and slides and everything after school and on weekends. And one of my favorite things was to swing really high and then jump off. And I liked using my whole body, my arms, my legs, my torso to make the swing go high and choosing my moment and flying through the air and landing. We couldn't do that during the school day because you could land on another kid. But after school, I could choose my own risks. And when I was in college, I had the opportunity to study abroad. And the program was that I would be put in a dormitory with a bunch of other American students. And then we would have American teachers. I was looking at France at the time. And then, you could go out and get a croissant and then come back and be with all these Americans. And I thought, who wants to do that? I want to jump off the swing, right? And land on my own 2 feet. So instead of doing that, I actually graduated from college a year early. And then I did my abroad after college. I bought a one-way ticket to Taipei. And when I got there, I found work teaching English and I played music on street corners. And it was just that perfect swing and jump and land and see what happens. It was kind of like, well, anything could happen. And one of the wonderful things that did happen was I was playing music on street corners in the fall. And I met a man who was the conductor for the orchestra at the Chinese Cultural University. So he thought this was interesting. And we had a conversation and he hired me right on the spot to be his English language tutor. So we met 2 or 3 times a week for the rest of the year. He introduced me to some of his students and I did English lessons in exchange for bamboo flute lessons and calligraphy with a brush and music theory, so I could learn Chinese vocabulary for that. And then in the spring, they helped me apply to the music conservatory in Shanghai. So then the next year I was in mainland China and I was thinking about going to a small school up in the Northeast because it had like a sister school relationship with my college. And the conductor said, absolutely not. Beijing and Shanghai are the 2 best schools. So you go to one of those. And you'll have more fun living in Shanghai. Beijing is the capital, it's politics, so you should go to Shanghai. I was like, okay. And so that was my first 2 years out of college, was swinging and jumping and meeting a lot of wonderful people and really having the challenge of getting up to speed quickly. I started studying Chinese in the summer of 1989. By the fall of 1990, when I bought my one-way plane ticket, I'd had 5 months of intensive Chinese language study scattered over that year. 2 months the one summer, a month in the winter, and then 2 months the next summer.
That's really cool. That's really intense.
I was a literature major with a love for stories and a love for language and a love for music and connecting with people. And I was off on the other side of the world and having a wonderful time making it all work. And one day in the winter, after work, so I'd been there for maybe 4 or 5 months. I was going home from my teaching English job. I was in Taipei, Taiwan, and it was a kind of a wintry, drizzly day. I was just waiting for the bus, and then the bus came, and I got on, and it was evening, so the lights were dimming. like the sky was dimming and the street lights were coming on. So I chose a spot behind the second door of the bus because it was up nice and high and I'd be able to look out and see the city streets and the shop lights. And so I was just going home after another good day. But the space in front of me, so I was the first seat behind the second door, and there was a bar in front, but there was no, usually there's a vertical plate underneath, usually metal or hard plastic, and there was no plate. And the bus driver stopped suddenly, responding to traffic, and I shot off the seat under the bar and down those wet, grimy steps. And I had 10 years of low back and neck pain. That was the launch into, oh, my body is not moving easily. A comfortable body is not something that I can just take for granted as the ground. So I still had a wonderful life. I still had some good experiences in Taiwan. I still learned in Shanghai and had a good time, but I also hurt all the time. And my experience was that my muscles stiffened up more during the night while I slept. So I always woke up more uncomfortable. I might have had a good or a bad day, and I'd be feeling my best in the evening. So sometimes it was hard to go to bed at a reasonable time because this is the best I felt all day. And I know I'll feel worse in the morning. I was young, right? I was in my 20s. So I still had good coordination and I still had good balance, but I also hurt all the time. And it can sure sap your sense of humor or your sense of patience with other people, right? Like, I'm just trying to get through the day. You're not as cute or entertaining as you think you are. I just really want to go home and lay down. So I had a lot of that. When I came back to the United States from Asia, I saw doctors, I saw chiropractors and physical therapists and massage and acupuncture. I did all that and I still just hurt all the time. And it was when I started learning to move differently, to work with my body differently, I came out of pain completely. And that really got my attention because I'd hurt for 10 years. And I set the intention in the middle of that time of, if I have to go through this, I want to map the territory. I want to come out of it able to be useful to other people. And so when the pain was all gone, and really quite suddenly, in just a couple of months, I quit my day job, which was teaching high school English, and went off to yoga teacher training because it was a specific yoga practice that had really made the biggest difference. And the other thing that it helped so much when I had bad days was doing some sequences from the Feldenkrais method. And so when I finished yoga teacher training and got established as a yoga teacher, I looked into where were the Feldenkrais training. Was there a Feldenkrais training happening in my area? And within a month or two, I was enrolled in that. And those were just a great combination to get me launched as a movement teacher.
Wow. So how long have you been doing this?
So it was 2001 when I came out of pain. So it was 1991 that I had the accident, winter of 91. 2001 that I came out of pain in that winter. And then fall of 2001, I was at yoga teacher training. I actually swing high and jump off. The Olympic Games the Winter Olympic Games were held in Salt Lake City in 2002. And before that summer of 2001, I heard on the radio that they were going to be in Beijing in 2008. And I was like, wouldn't that be fun to go to? And I knew that the Chinese respect experience. If I already had it on my resume that I'd worked at one Olympic Games and I was fluent in Chinese, I would be a shoo-in. So I started, it was 2001, so we didn't really have the internet like we have now. So I started faxing my resume to everybody I could find who was related to the Olympics in Salt Lake City. And I got hired to work in past administration at the Olympic Athlete Village. And as soon as I got out of it, as I was in yoga teacher training in that fall, I started reaching out to the owner of the yoga studio in Salt Lake City, just thinking maybe somebody in the yoga community could rent me a room for the 6 or 8 weeks that I would be at the games. The owner of the studio said, I need a teacher right away. How soon can you get here? So she'd had 2 other teachers. One went to graduate school and moved away, and the other one got married and moved out of state. And so she went from having herself and 2 other teachers to she was teaching everything. So I actually finished yoga teacher training. And instead of just teaching an occasional class at my home studio, I packed up the car and drove. I grew up in Michigan. So I drove from Michigan to Salt Lake City. And I was teaching full time right away. And the owner of that studio was fabulous. She had been a yoga teacher for about 20 years. And so it was like the next phase of training for me. So she would take my classes and then she'd come with a list of things she wanted me to improve. And when she really took my teaching apart and helped me be very deliberate and intentional about that. When I started working at the Olympic Village, when that got busy, I wasn't able to teach so much anymore. So she brought in 2 other teachers. And then when the games finished, she would lead advanced classes for the teachers and a few of the students. And I would take the 6 a.m. class as a warm up and then have another hour and a half, 2 hours with her of just deep practice. So it was like it was just a wonderful.
Like you got your master's in yoga.
Right. So that was all wonderful. However, there were now 4 teachers at the studio, and I was really just teaching a few classes a week. It's not like it had been in December when I'd first come out. And I was thinking I could get a part-time job to support my now hobby of teaching yoga, or I could look for another studio situation where I could get more hours, more classes. And I was really interested in the Washington, D.C. area because so many people come here from all over the world. And so large Chinese population, just a very large international population, and the museums, the culture scene here. And I found a studio in this area where I am now, which is Maryland, that was looking for teachers and moved here. And that was then when I settled and started looking into Feldenkrais trainings. And so that was the spring of 2002.
Wow. So you really do just jump when
I jumped. And so then the next jump, right. And so that's why I started with that playground.
Yes.
analogy.
I love that.
So then everything was great, right? I was in training for another modality that was very interesting. I was teaching. I felt great. My students at the studio were getting improvements. I was seeing how I could bring some of the insights from Feldenkrais into the yoga studio. So everything was fabulous. And then the spring of 2003, I was driving home from the studio. I was waiting to make a left turn, and I saw an older woman walk across the street. And when she got just a few yards up on the sidewalk, she tripped and fell. And so I parked my car and I went over and sat down next to her and just talked and listened for a little while. And it was the second time in a week that she'd gone for a walk and fallen. It was the first that I'd really thought about it because I had my pain when I was in my 20s. My balance was fine. My coordination was fine. And I realized, this is another area that can really impact life some of the changes that happen as people get older, with balance really being key among them. And I realized that she wasn't going to put on spandex and come to take classes at a yoga studio. And even if she did, I didn't know that I really had any tools that would help her in any kind of short term. And so I started looking around for other trainings of what do we know that would improve balance? What do we know that would improve alignment for day-to-day activities in ways that would be easier for a bigger stretch of the population to participate in? I started teaching at the local recreation department so that there was a lower barrier of entry, and I got more different kinds of people who, again, wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable putting on skin-tight clothes and going into a yoga studio. And that was wonderful for me because if you're teaching at a yoga studio, very often, not always, you need to be teaching yoga, and usually you need to be presenting the lineage of the studio that you're in. But at the recreation department, I could do all sorts of things. And really, as long as nobody was getting hurt and people kept signing up for my classes, I could do anything. And so I ended up with this very adventurous group of regulars. And within a few years, I was teaching 12 classes a week for the recreation department. I had about 100 students that I would see every week. And we could just play, right? I really thought of them as fellow researchers, not lab rats, but colleagues, because I would get interested in the feet. And then I could see how 100 different people responded to the same kinds of activities. The classes, they're arranged. I had 2 each week that were adaptive. So people with multiple sclerosis or stroke survivors, folks coming in wheelchairs or with walkers. And then I had yoga challenge classes with students that were running marathons and doing all sorts. So I really had this marvelous playground to see this many different body types and levels of activities and personalities and life histories. Well, how do they respond to this? And what about this? So that continued until March of 2020, when the pandemic put a break on all in-person events like that. And then I began the adventure of how can I teach online and how can I begin to offer this to, again, a wider audience. And what has been exciting about that is that there are some things that are actually easier to communicate and get across teaching online than in a classroom. I can put up visuals and I know everybody sees them and I know they see them clearly. And as long as they're looking at the screen, I know what they're looking at. Whereas if we're all in the room together, they could be looking out the window or at somebody else's hair. I don't know. I don't really know where their attention is. And it allows for things to be recorded. So people that have got a lot of pain don't have to get to the venue, or they can watch it in 10 to 15 minute sections, right? They don't have to have the stamina for an entire hour class all at once. And I can work with people all over the world. So that has been really fun and was another big jump, right? So I went from all in person to all online, all in a blink.
That is amazing. You are so adaptable. You're like a scientist. You had like an amazing focus group to like really see hands on. When you were working there, was that volunteer? Did you start out as a volunteer or did they hire you?
No. So the recreation department, they pay instructors. And the timing was I walked in and asked to speak to the supervisor who organized the recreation classes. And they already had yoga classes on the schedules. There's a few, I think 2 or 3 each week. And so I started the conversation with the director saying, I know you already have a yoga teacher, so you're all set there. And I wonder if you'd be interested in these other classes because I'd been in training for other things. And she said, oh, you're a yoga teacher. Our yoga teacher is about to go on maternity leave. And so I stepped right into, like, I was the solution to the puzzle they had of who are we going to get to teach classes when the yoga teacher goes on maternity leave. And so I was allowed to offer some of the other things that I was interested in, but what they really wanted was somebody who could continue the program that was in place.
I mean, your timing is amazing. It's one thing after another, it just lines up for you.
Right.
That is pretty remarkable. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that training was? I think you called it
Feldenkrais.
yeah.
Yes. Moshe Feldenkrais. I've tried to remember. I don't have in my head now when he was born, but he was already an adult by World War II. He'd had a knee injury playing soccer as a young man. And then during World War II, he was out working on boats with the Royal Navy, and that constant movement of the ships re-aggravated his knee issues. So he went to the doctors and they said, we'll do surgery and there's a 50% chance you'll be fine and a 50% chance you'll walk with a cane for the rest of your life. And he said, 50-50 is like flipping a coin. You don't know anything. So he wouldn't let them operate, but he lived in a 4th floor walk-up. So not having a functional knee wasn't an option, right? Like he had a lot of steps to manage just to go home and get back out into the world. What he did, instead of just doing strength exercises or stretches, or what he really did was to look at internal communication. How were his brain and his muscles communicating? If you imagine that the motor cortex in your brain has a map of all the cells in your body, did your map get filled in completely when you were young, or did an accident happen so that it was like somebody spilled coffee on the map and now you don't even know, where all your parts are? So one analogy I like to use when I talk about the Feldenkrais method is telephones, especially smartphones. So if you imagine that your brain, ideally, right, that map has the phone number for every muscle cell in your body, Well, what if it doesn't? What if there are some cells that have not been called in so long that they're not in favorites and they're not even kept in the contact list? And so when your brain wants to ask them to do something, you have to, do a Google search and find what's the phone number anyway? Who do we have down? Do we have anyone down there and how do we reach them? And imagine that your brain does find the phone number and calls, but the cell phone picks up the muscle cell picks up the smartphone and sees scam likely or caller unknown and says, let it go to voicemail. I don't hear from them. I have no idea who's calling. Well, then as far as your brain is concerned, you don't know who are all the resources in terms of muscles that you have to help you get through a day, or how to reach them, or how headquarters can help coordinate them to work as part of a team. And so the Feldenkrais method, often you're asked to do unusual movements because you're trying to improve that communication loop. Can the brain find those muscles? Or asking you to separate things out. So your eye and neck movements are some of the earliest habits that you developed as a baby, right? You hear something interesting, your eyes go over there and you learn how to turn your head so that you could see it. What if I asked you to keep your eyes still and turn your head, or turn your head and eyes opposite each other? Now that's a little more sophisticated communication loop, right? You're going to have to figure that out. So there are things that relate to the toes or how the leg relates to the whole body. And one of the ideas is the better the communication loops and the better your map of yourself so that you know all the parts that you have to work with, then the more coordinated you can be, the more harmonious your movements can be. Sometimes pain comes from the places that are like the dark forest. I have no idea what's over there. And the only way they can get your attention is to scream and shout, right? Because you don't pick up more subtle signals. The idea is not that you need to be deliberate about every movement every day, but that things can be available in a moment when you need them. So I had an experience once where I was walking from a restaurant to my car and I was not paying attention as I was walking across the parking lot, and I caught the edge of a curb with my foot, right? So instead of being here or here, I was partway on. And of course, I started to shift off. That could have turned into a fall. It could have turned into a really nasty sprain. And instead, all the muscles on that side of my body agreed to get long in a moment. And I took one funny step and I was just fine. There was nothing to recover from. There was no trouble. It just was, I didn't notice that. And my body handled it before my conscious mind even knew something needed addressing. And I just went on about my day.
Do you have examples or tips for movement that people could do right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the favorite one, if I had one thing I could share with everybody in the world, it would actually be about rotating the arms, because it sets you up for so much either goodness or trouble. So if you just let your arms hang down by your sides and rotate them so the palms of the hands face the wall behind you, and then rotate them so the palms of the hands face forward. So that's all we're going to do. It's that simple. And people usually know where their arms are and they can do this. So now what I'll invite is, if you can, sit forward on your chair or stand up, right, if you're listening. And you just want your spine to be able to move. And then don't resist. So if you rotate so the palms of your hands face the wall behind you and stay there, I think what you'll find is that your shoulders start coming forward and your head starts coming forward. And just imagine if you were to work at your desk from here, you're already head forward and hunched back. How's that going to go for you if you spend 8 or 10 or 12 hours like that? And also, how do you come across as a speaker, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, you're the face of your business, and here's your business face. You keep your hands, palms behind you, and try to sit up straight and take your head back. I think you'll feel that it's a lot of work, and you're probably not breathing very well. And, I hate sitting up straight, right? So go ahead and go back into the slump. Now, don't try to correct the slump. Just rotate so the palms face forward. And what usually happens is, as the arms rotate so the palms face forward, the shoulders open, the head comes back up over the spine. And now you're more upright, and you're not upright because of tension. You're not working hard for this. You're not micro-correcting. This is an easy thing you could do anytime you sit down to type. Rotate palms forward, bend at the elbows, turn over from the elbows, and now you're set up to type, and you're going to be more open across the front of the shoulders, and you're going to look better in your Zoom calls, if you're on stage, any of that stuff. This also makes a big difference for balance and moving around. So if I rotate palms behind me, my feet are planted now. It's actually, I can shift weight a little bit, but it's hard for me to pick up my feet. So I'll be more likely to shuffle. If I rotate palms forward now, my legs are light. I'm easy to move. You don't have to go all the way palms forward. Just palms facing you will be enough that you can have an easy swing for your arms. If they've got that, arms internally rotated, palms behind them have it, then you could say, oh, it's a beautiful day. Would you like to go for a walk? And they would say, well, no, I'm kind of planted here, right? But just simply rotating the arms can make you a little lighter on your feet, have a little more ease of movement. And then you could say, oh, yeah, it looks lovely out there. Let's go for a walk. So I think of it like dominoes, right? That you can set up a cascade. If you knock the first domino in a way that takes you into collapse, then it's hard to get yourself motivated to do more things because you have to do that while collapsing. And if you tip the first domino in a direction that gives you a little more uprightness and lightness and better coordination, then it's easy to take on a challenge because, it could be fun. The domino that we're doing, right? So if you're listening to this on the audio, you might want to check out the YouTube for this portion of it. When you rotate this upper arm bone, when you have palms behind you, you rotate the upper arm bone in a way that invites the shoulder blade to move away from the spine and puts a spin on the collarbone that presses down on the sternum. And so that shoulder's coming forward and a little bit down on the chest, and that all brings the head forward. And rotating the arm the other way, a little external rotation of the arm so that the palm faces forward, puts the reverse spin on the collarbone, giving a little bit of a lift to the chest. And it invites the shoulder blade to come back a little bit closer to the spine so that things are just where they belong in relation to each other.
Okay. So I was doing that as you were saying it. I'm like, this is a miracle. Like I felt a difference immediately. It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing.
This is the message that I really want to get to people like entrepreneurs in your audience is taking care of your body can be really, when you know what to do, it can be quite simple and easy. And you're just a few times a day, you check in. If you don't quite like your posture, you do a little rotation of your arms, and then you go into washing dishes or typing or walking your dog or whatever you're doing. When I used to travel more, if I was going from one gate to the next in the airport and I could feel like I was getting tired and slumpy, I just would give a little rotation to the arms and I'd suddenly be more upright. And it's easier to walk from gate to gate, right? As you get tired, some of these things might begin going in the direction of collapse. And if you can take a break, do it. But if you need to keep going, then you want to just keep inviting your parts to work well together so that you're not fighting yourself.
You just changed my life, really, because I was thinking as I was doing, I was like, when I have to think about sitting up straight, I'm fighting myself. But when you just do that, I was like, whoa, it just did it automatically.
That's what I'm interested in is, can we just take the conflict out? I started out training in yoga and the Feldenkrais method. And then I had that conversation with that woman who fell down, and I started looking further afield at what else do we know? What have we got? And one of the wonderful trainings that I went to really looked at muscle length and tone, which makes so much sense to me as a musician, right? So if you have a musical instrument, if you think about a string instrument, if some strings are too short and others are too long, the instrument is out of tune. Nothing anybody plays on it will sound good, right? It's out of tune. You don't need a new instrument. You don't need more practice hours. You don't need to try harder. You just need to tune the instrument. Well, if you've been slumping all day, then the muscles in the front of your shoulder are short. The muscles in the back are long. Now you're out of tune. Now you go to the gym to work out because that's good for you, but you're out of tune. you're more likely to get a shoulder injury. Or you say, I'm gonna play basketball or baseball, or well, you're going to be less coordinated than you could be because you're out of tune and you're more vulnerable to injury. And so then you might think, oh, I need to stretch. But if you have a muscle that's tight and then you stretch it, now you have a muscle that's tighter. You haven't actually loosened it up. I think like a literature major. If you have a muscle that has been short all day, if you think in terms of characters and motivation, that muscle might have concluded that its mission, its job is to keep the upper arm bone close to the center of the chest. And now you try to stretch and you set up a fight. You're asking the muscle to fail in what it perceives as being its mission. So what you can do instead is don't stretch a tight muscle. Bring the endpoints of the muscle closer together. Now the muscle is slack and it's soft. And if you hold a muscle in a slack position for 60 seconds, you reset the spindle cells in the muscle and it's ready for a new idea, a new mission. So instead of fighting to stretch this tight muscle, you can help it get a little bit shorter. Use the other hand to pull that arm in. And it doesn't have to be as far as you possibly can, right? So if I'm tight, all I have to do is come a little bit in and now I'm slack. And if you use the other arm, the other hand to pull that arm in a little bit, now this pectoralis major muscle is short and not having to do any work. So the muscle, right, we're thinking in terms of character and motivation, says, oh, thank goodness, mission accomplished. And I don't have to do it all on my own. I have help. You stay there for a minute, the muscle gets a reset. Now it's ready for a new idea. And so now you can go into stretching without a fight. You don't have an argument. You don't have pushback. You don't get sore later. And then the same thing would be true for the rhomboids on the other side. If you've been slumpy all day, they might have concluded their job is to stay long and get out of the way because for some reason the shoulders need to be close together in the front. So you slacken those and then ask them to do some strengthening activities so that they get a little bit shorter. So that was like, oh, you can address muscle length and tone without a fight, right? You don't have to have internal conflict about your posture. You also don't have to have internal conflict when you want to make a change. Oh, I'd like you to be a little different length. Let me help you feel successful at what you're doing. And then you can go on and be successful doing something else.
I mean, you're a miracle worker. Just in the short amount of time that I've heard you talk and your passion, and you're so intelligent.
Thank you. This muscle length too. I want to make this point. The hamstring muscles make a connection between the ischial tuberosity at the back of the pelvis and the bottom of the knee. And so those muscles are one length in standing. And then when you sit, you take the bottom of the knee further away from the back of the pelvis. So sitting is actually taking you out of tune, right? You get short in the front and long in the back. And so if you sit all day, then at the end of the day, that's where you are, is out of tune, short in the front, long in the back. And I'm sure everybody has seen older people who no longer come fully upright, right? This is they're standing where they're bent forward from the hips. And that's what has happened is they're short in the front, long in the back. That's actually very easy to fix and address. And it's not a lot of work and it's not hard. You just slacken the muscles in the front, slacken the muscles in the back. Now you're going to already be more upright. It just take a couple of minutes. And then you might want to do some strengthening activities for the hamstrings so that they get a little bit shorter. And that can be as easy as standing up and you just pick up your foot behind you while you're brushing your teeth or washing dishes. It's nice to have something to hold on to so you can't fall over. But you give the hamstrings something to do that makes them shorter. They come back toward their more optimal length. You're going to be more upright. And so that leaning forward as your standing posture, it really messes with the ability to walk, right, with your gait and also with standing balance. And so a lot of folks, as they get older, first of all, if they would just rotate their upper arms, they'd already be more upright and that would help. And if they bring a little more balance to the muscle length and tone in the front and back of the hips, then they also would be more upright, which would make them more responsive. And so I have worked a lot with older adults. So if you've got audience members in their 30s, 40s, 50s, I know what your future looks like. And if I can reverse it for someone in their 70s and 80s, I can tell you, well, you don't have to even go there. And they're really simple things that you can do while you are working, while you are washing dishes, while you're walking your dog, can set you up so that you don't have to recover from your workday. You just feel fine. And when you're out playing, you don't have to recover from playtime. You just are in good shape.
That is truly amazing. Tell me, because I want more. So
Yeah.
tell me about your freebie.
The free gift is Pain-Free Neck Week. It is a series of 5 short videos, 3 minutes. And each video includes one tip, like the things that I have shared today, so that you have something that you can implement right away to make you a little more comfortable, to give you a little bit of a reset if things have already started tightening up or getting a little bit, oh, I'm not so well coordinated as I used to be anymore.
That is wonderful. I cannot wait to sign up for that. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm very grateful for that. And since we are on the topic of entrepreneurs and working, do you have your top 3 tips for them?
so one tip, first of all, is you need to work with your body. There's a lot, if you look at the fitness industry or anything in health and wellness, there's a lot out there about seeing the body as something to manipulate or control or perfect. But you really can work with your body in a very friendly way. And part of that is going to be getting furniture that fits you. I have long legs, so either I have I have a chair that's high enough for me. What I actually did for my workstation is buy a bar stool and then have my dad cut the legs of that so that it's a good height for me. And when I'm sitting at my computer, I sit on a stool that's a good height for me. And when I get tired of sitting, I stand up. And I have an external keyboard because there's no ergonomic way to use a laptop, right? So I'm on a laptop right now, and I have the screen and the camera up at a good height. And if I type here, I would be typing like this. And so I have an external keyboard, and I have it down at a height that's really good for my shoulders, my arms, and my wrists. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up with furniture that actually fits you and that you're taking breaks. There's not one perfect sitting posture. After 10 to 15 minutes in any one position, some of your muscles will start to fatigue. So you need to have 3 or 4 good sitting postures and rotate among them. Or what I do is alternate back and forth between sitting and standing. And a lot of the time when I'm standing, I stand on an unstable surface, a foam balance pad, a wobble board, so that I'm just wiggling a lot. And those are some friendly ways that I work with and support my body. You also need to solve the puzzles that you have. And so if you just go online and look for random videos and tips about exercises or stretching, if some of your muscles are too short and some are too long, do you know which is which? Are you stretching something that's already too long? Are you strengthening something that's already too short? So it can be me. I'd be delighted to work with more people, but there are also lots of other folks who know what they're doing, and reaching out for some support from someone who can see you from the outside, see some of your blind spots, or help you at least get a little clarity about what puzzles do you have can make a big difference. Because if you just bring more activities in, and you don't even know what it is that you'd like to address in terms of diet or movement or anything, how are you going to know if you're actually improving anything, or are you making things worse? And my third tip would be, please, I just encourage you to think long term. Life expectancy for North Americans, lots of us are going to reach 90. If you're in your 30s, your 40s, and you're just thinking about steps that you walk every day, or heart rate, or what size clothing you wear, I really encourage you to think, these eyeballs, these joints, you might be using them for another 30, 40, 50 years. Are you taking care of them today so they'll have longevity of function for that many decades? Because if you had a car, right, like this body is your vehicle for getting around and running your business, or having adventures or fun experiences in the world. And if you had an automobile that you knew you were going to have for another 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you'd probably take really good care of it, right? You'd get some maintenance checks. You'd be on the lookout for when things get a little clunky or make funny noises and get them addressed right away. And a lot of folks, as they get older, they begin noticing little aches and pains, things that don't work so well with their body. And they just say, oh, that's what getting older is like. But if you do that with a car, you end up with an old junker. And if you get these little messages about your body not functioning so well and you ignore them, then you can end up with 10, 15, 20 years of lots of pain, lots of doctor appointments at the end because things just don't work well.
Your tips and everything that you've said is so helpful and so smart. You're an amazing person. I'm so happy to have you here for today.
Thank you, Tia. I'm delighted to be here with you. I just want to offer this too, because we started at the beginning talking about the Chinese orchestra. I traveled and I played music a lot in my 20s. And then as I got more and more into teaching movement classes and going to more trainings, I played music less and less. And then finally, the instruments were put away. And really, for about 20 years, I didn't even take them out of cases. I didn't play anything. And then we could spend another half hour talking about this, but through a chance conversation in a park, I met some folks, and through a conversation at a Tai Chi class I joined, someone introduced me to the director of the local orchestra, and I was invited to perform with them. And I loved them because we only had 3 weeks. And I said, played in 20 years. And they said, oh, I'll come back to you. Here's the sheet music. Rehearsals are on Friday. You have 3 weeks. And that was, again, like jumping off the swing. And I was like, I like these people. If they have this much confidence, having just met me. Because of the movement things that I've been doing, I was able in my mid-50s to say, yeah, that sounds like fun. And I didn't have to say, oh, I don't know if I'll be having a good or a bad back pain day, or, oh, I can't lift a heavy instrument, or, oh, that sounds like a lot of hours at rehearsal. I don't think I'm quite up to that. I was just able to say, okay, game on. And so the payoff to learning small things that you can do to work with your body during the workday is not just that you look better and feel better in the short term, but it also means when an opportunity for something fun comes up, you have a vehicle that's ready to go, right? You don't have to say, I don't think I can get there. I don't know if I can manage that. You can just say, I'm ready. And that can be nice in the kind of short, medium term. But if you've got folks in your audience also that are working really hard now with the hope of spending their retirement traveling, you need more than just money for the plane tickets, right? You also need a body that can manage long flights and can manage your luggage and actually can manage stairs and cobblestones or wherever it is that you'd like to go. So putting some of these good practices in place now just means you can have more fun in your life.
I love that. You set it up perfectly. I had some questions for you about that. One, what instruments do you play in the orchestra? And two, when is the next big performance?
So the instrument I play in English in North America is called the dulcimer, hammer dulcimer. And in Chinese, it is the yangqin. And the wonderful thing for me is that I had not played in a traditional Chinese orchestra before. And the usual seating arrangement is for the yangqin to be right front and center. So I'll send you a photo later, and it's easy to pick me out as the only white person on stage who's right in the front next to the conductor. So that was fun. So I got to be surrounded by all this beautiful sound. What I just played in was the Mid-Autumn Festival Gala. And then the next big performance that we'll have is likely going to be the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year.
Where would they be able to see you?
Yeah, I can give you links to the YouTube videos of the recent performance, so you can see that already. And then we're in the Washington, D.C. area. The Mid-Autumn Festival performance was in Germantown, Maryland. And I don't know yet if they have a venue selected for the New Year concert.
Okay. So when this airs, all the links and event details I'll have in the show notes for everybody listening, because I would love to have people support you and the orchestra.
Well, thank you. And I mean, one of the missions of this orchestra is to introduce Chinese music to American audiences. So I would love to get some links out to people. And I'm very excited for where that can go. I had two performances with them recently. One was with the full orchestra, and then the next one was a smaller ensemble, and they invited me to be the bilingual MC. So that's another new adventure opening out for me. But I'm very much looking forward, because that's what I did so much in my 20s, was to travel around and introduce people to Chinese music. And so I actually have experience at that. I really understand how storytelling can give some context and help people feel connected. So I'm very much looking forward to where this goes.
You have so many different missions and they're all so heartfelt, and I can feel it. I can feel your passion, and I love supporting you on your journey through this life with all the things that you are doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you
Is
so
there
much.
anything else you want to mention before we shift gears and play a game?
So my enthusiasm working with people around movement, because of what I went through, has very much been helping people bridge that gap between, oh, well, I'd like to, but I can't because of pain or because of limitations. And so I just would like to encourage any listeners who are in that situation that small steps really can make big differences. And it doesn't have to be a full hour class, and it doesn't have to be a lot of repetitions, but small things can make a big difference to you starting to be more comfortable and starting to be a little more capable. And I love coming up with variations so that everyone has a way to connect with the essence of the activity. So really just want to put a little stronger encouragement for people who are in chronic pain or limitation. I don't know how much can be resolved for everybody, but there's a way to move forward that's not overwhelming. And also that I love what I do now, working with people around movement. And I was not looking into this at all until I had an accident. So I actually don't regret getting on that bus or what happened or those 10 years, because it's brought me into this wonderful work where I get to connect with so many people around their own physical ability to make choices and do things they enjoy. So if you're in a hard place, it could be your doorway to a next great chapter, and you just don't want to get stuck in that doorway transition. Find your way through and then see who you are because of this experience. It doesn't have to be the interruption in your life or the thing that you wish never happened. It could be something that makes other things possible that will actually be very good for you and for others.
It's beautifully said. As you were talking, I thought of sometimes life, it feels like a roadblock, but it actually gets you to slow down so you can have clarity on where you're going next. And thank you so much for sharing that. Also, I was thinking work smarter, not harder is basically like your whole MO, right?
But if you just tell somebody that, then how do they know how to work smarter?
Right.
I've had 20 years of trainings and experience working with people and exploring. And so, yes, work smarter, not harder, and get some help, right? Get some input.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Like, you have all the answers. It's so much easier and smarter to go to you than trying to figure it out on your own and like doing all the things. Like, you have done all the research for years. It's amazing.
Well, and the setup that I had was so beautiful, right? Because I would see those 100 people each week, and I would see what was working and what wasn't. So then the next time I went to a training and they'd say, and then this and this. And I was like, yeah, but what do you say about this person, right? Because I've already tried that, and it's not, what else do I need to do? And so it was great to be in the room with people that knew more than me and say, okay, but what I already know isn't working. This person is coming and they're trying, they're following directions. So I'm the one that needs the upgrade, right? What do I need to learn that I can take back that will be more effective for them?
Thank you for doing that and being on your path. So, that being said, are you ready to play a game?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So, you picked Would You Rather. So, the first one is, would you rather see 10 minutes in the future or 150 years in the future?
Wow, I don't know. The thing that's tempting would be to see 150 years to see where's, I guess I would do that one because I'd be interested in the story arc. Oh, well, I know where we are right now. Where's that arc headed?
Yeah. Would you rather be forced to sing along or dance along to every song you heard?
Oh, I'm a much better dancer than singer.
Yeah.
I
That's the I thought you were going to say sing because it's what.
no. No, I can play, but I'm going to be working soon with a voice coach, and with that might free me up, but I'm not so good at staying on pitch. I would dance.
Yeah, actually, that does make more sense because my son is so great musically and he is a dancer. Not so much anymore as a teenager, but so he would probably, and just that musical mind, you have the rhythm.
My dad is a real meticulous craftsman, and he built, it was the 1970s, he built these really big end table speakers with big fabric fronts. And when my parents were retiring and getting rid of a lot of their furniture, I noticed, I'd always noticed this, that the fabric fronts of those speakers were all caved in. And finally, when they were getting rid of them, I said, what happened there? And my dad looked at me and he said, you did that. I said, what? When I was a toddler, whenever they would play music, I would go lean up against the fabric of the speakers and really lean into the vibrations. So I think even then, it was a whole body event for me.
Oh, yeah. That's such a cute story. Thank you. Would you rather stay in during snow or build a fort?
You know what I love during snow is actually just to go for a walk. It's before everyone gets out with their snow blowers. It's so quiet.
Yeah.
And the air has such a different quality. So I would love to be out moving. And if some of that was building a fort, that would be fine.
Would you rather have a personal maid or a personal chef?
Oh, a maid. I like cooking, and I am not so good at all the adult things of keeping clean and running.
Would you rather live in a haunted house by friendly ghost or be a ghost reliving your average day after you die?
Oh no, after I die, I'd like to go. I don't know where I'll go, but I don't want to be here. I would want to jump off the swing somewhere else.
So you'd rather have friendly ghosts?
I'd rather have friendly ghosts.
Would you rather have one wish granted today or 10 wishes granted 20 years from now?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think I would take one today.
Yeah. Would you rather be reincarnated as a fly or just stop existing when you die?
One of the things about the Feldenkrais method that's so interesting is Moshe Feldenkrais said that the essence of being human is free choice. And to be in the realm of human choice, you need 3 options. That 2 is like to be or not to be. And you really do you want to be this or that or something else altogether? So I feel like on this one, I feel even more bound by the binary, which I understand is the game that I chose to play. But I feel like I'm ready to jump off the swing again, and I wouldn't want to just stop existing. So if the only option was to be a fly, I would do that. But it feels like there must be another option altogether that would be juicier and more delightful.
Yeah. And just to add on, I've never said this, but when I've played this game before, and I think that if you're already reincarnated as fly, then you'll come back as something else the next time. So
Right.
it gives you hope for something else later. Rather have Celine Dion or Eminem perform the soundtrack of your life?
I feel bound by the binary again. I would like the orchestra that I just played with to play it. But if I had to choose them, I think I'd go with Celine.
Yes. I was like, this is interesting for somebody that plays music. I want to know. Would you rather win on Survivor or on The Bachelorette?
Survivor.
Yeah. That seems more of a jumping off the swing kind of thing. Thank you so much for playing that game. Hope you had fun.
I love that jumping off the swing analogy because it's who I was before I had ideas about who I was. And like when I met these Chinese folks recently who invited me to do a big thing, I was like, oh, these are my people. Like they have confidence in me to do this. And so it then also becomes a measuring gauge in adulthood of what choice is going to satisfy me or what people are going to be good companions. Because if they had said, oh, that's interesting, maybe she'd be ready for the New Year concert or the spring concert, that would have been completely legitimate. But the fact that they said, you have 3 weeks, get practicing, was like, oh, all right then. I did some market research with skillful people who quilt or knit or play music. And it was just heartbreaking for me how many of them were saying things like, oh, well, I knit or crochet and I have a short list of projects I want to finish before my thumb gives out completely because I already have arthritis in this joint. Or I'm getting repetitive motion injuries, and so I won't be able to play music very long. And I'm like, to lose something like that. So let's get you some of the information and the good practices that you can be doing now so that you can continue to make choices about what you do going forward and so that the things you really love can continue to stay as an option for you and not get shut out because you can't manage it anymore.
Yeah, it's really quite brilliant. You are. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I have final questions for you. The first one is a two-parter. Tell me what legacy means to you and what role does it play in your life?
Me, the legacy, I love that free will piece. I would love that people have more options in their own lives after meeting me, after taking my classes, after any of my programs. As a musician, right? It feels a little bit like a bell, right? So if I give them something and then it continues to ring on and ripple out into their life beyond the time that we're together, I love that as a legacy. I would like people to have more options to have authority in their own life so they have agency to make choices and so that they're more able to live authentically and in a way that's fulfilling to them. And so that would be if there's a mark that I leave that's
That's the next question.
that that a vibration going that's still continuing after I'm gone, I would like it to be that more people have more options and more sense of authority in their own lives, more ability to make choices and live authentic lives.
Yeah. So the final question, which you're alluding to, is how are you marking this time in your life?
I'm just so excited right now that with the recent invitation to join the Tai Chi class and to join the orchestra, it feels like my past has come to knock on the door and said, "We're here to collect you again." And what's exciting is beyond the delight I feel in doing these activities again and doing them with this group of people, it's also that I come in with a whole other set of skills I've been gaining in the meantime. So the music director of the orchestra does a lot of work with some of the senior adult day centers in the area, and he's already decided I'll be teaching English classes and movement classes and music classes and leading book discussions. And to be able to come in again to something that I did before and to have been spending the time well doing other things just means that it enriches the coming back and what I can offer now.
Yeah. Your wisdom of everything that you've learned is remarkable. Like I said, I wish I had another word. Well, that's the one that keeps coming to mind. So, with that said, I am so grateful for you to be here with me today and really shifting the mindsets of people and giving them tools and examples to better help themselves. It really shows that you care about people. I really want to share you and point people in your direction because I really think that you are changing the world and I just love what you do. I can't wait to know more about you and to work with you later. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to spend time with you and have this conversation. And I look forward to connecting more going forward because I think you have a beautiful program here and I enjoyed our conversation before the show too. So I'm looking forward to us getting to know each other better.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, we want to remind you to visit Paula's website at www.artofmovingwell.com. That's www.artofmovingwell.com. There you'll find a wealth of resources, including workshops, videos, and online courses, all designed to help you on your journey to pain-free living. But that's not all. As a special gift to our listeners, Paula is offering a free video series on her Pain-Free Neck Week. To claim your free series, simply head over to www.artofmovingwell.com and enter your email address. She will also now be offering Calm and Centered. This is a series of 2-minute videos teaching quick and effective techniques to calm the nervous system. Thank you for joining us on this episode of our podcast. We hope you found Paula's story and insights inspiring. Remember, no matter what challenges you may be facing, there is always hope for healing and improvement. Take care of yourself and keep moving forward.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Empowering Time Markers. We hope you found inspiration, gained valuable insights, and connected with our incredible guests. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us continue to bring you empowering content. And remember, the journey doesn't end here. Stay connected with us on social media, where we'll be sharing additional resources, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. Thank you for joining us on this empowering journey. Together, let's continue to make our mark on the world one moment at a time. Until then, keep empowering yourself and others. This is Tia Bottum, signing off from Empowering Time Markers.